presentation. If you hear any feedback, pause for a moment to see if staff can adjust it, and be mindful of the aisles. There are cords in the aisles that are not traditionally in the aisles. I just tripped on one. So before we start our agenda today, what we're going to do is have an informal presentation about the MOU and the potential of a forthcoming new stadium to Erie County. And then we'll have some questions from some special speakers that are here. They'll introduce themselves after the PowerPoint presentation. Once that segment of work session concludes, we will then jump into our agenda. Sound good? Okay. So whoever is leading the presentation is welcome to start taking the legislators through.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Madam Chair. Can everyone hear through the microphone? Excellent. Thank you for having us here today. Of course, it's a rare occasion for me to come and present before the legislature. I actually have done it one time before, and that was in regards to the agreement that was entered into by Erie County, New York State, and the Buffalo Bills for the construction of the renovation back in 2013. But I think it's important that I come here today to discuss what is a very important project for the future of our region. Once again, I'm Mark Polenkars, Erie County Executive, and I'm joined also today by Frank Jones from Greenberg-Traurig. Frank is our primary counsel associated with the negotiations between the county, the state, and the Buffalo Bills. Frank has much experience with regards to NFL deals. His firm and himself were chosen after we did a national search with regards to seeking out counsel for this project, and I just want to thank Frank for coming here today. Frank is based out of Houston, and if you have any questions in regards to Frank's experience, I would leave it up to him to talk about it, but let's just say I think we received better coverage and counsel than we could have if we did not have Mr. Jones on the project with us. Our local lead counsel, of course, was our county attorney, Michael Saragusa. Michael cannot be here today as a result of a health issue. We all understand what's happening in our community, and we just want to understand that we want to protect everybody. So unfortunately, Mr. Saragusa could not be here today. And I will be leading this presentation about the Erie County to the Erie County Legislature about the new stadium agreement between Erie County, the Erie County Stadium Corporation, and the Buffalo Bills LLC. The Buffalo Bills LLC does have a representative here today, and Mr. Ron Rakuya. And if you have any particular questions during the question session that relate more to the team, I would direct those to Mr. Rakuya. But we will be ready after the presentation to answer questions that you may have in regards to the negotiations and as they pertain to Erie County. So I know we've got some old school technology here. You all have, of course, the communication, which includes the Memorandum of Understanding and how we're seeking approval for the Memorandum of Understanding. This presentation today goes through the issues associated with the major terms included in the Memorandum of Understanding. You see on the screen over here, the Memorandum of Understanding is actually a three-party agreement that was entered into as of March 29th of this year by and among the Buffalo Bills, New York State, through the Erie County Stadium Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Empire State Development, and Erie County. The Erie County Stadium Corporation is an existing entity that is the party that is currently used by New York State for the existing facility. It was created as a result of the agreement that was entered into in the 1990s by New York State, Erie County, and the Bills to give the state an opportunity to invest in the current facility. As it must invest in the current facility, it also has to have an ownership interest because of the rules associated with the New York State finance law. So Empire State Development Corporation is an existing facility. The current facility, Erie County owns the facility. We lease it to the Empire State Development Corporation through Erie County Stadium Corporation, who then subleases it to the Buffalo Bills. And that is the existing relationship as it pertains today. The Memorandum of Understanding sets out all the major terms of the parties, including the fiscal and other responsibilities of the parties associated with the construction of the new stadium. One of the key terms, and we'll talk about that later, the Memorandum of Understanding is generally non-binding except for one major term, which prohibits the team, the Bills, from negotiating with any other city through at least September 1st of this year, as is more fully described in the memorandum. The memorandum sets out the major terms. We still have to enter into a lease, a construction agreement, a community benefits agreement, and the other agreements related to this, some of which I'll talk about as we move forward. But it is non-binding with regards to the general terms of, it's not the agreement that's going to looked at in the end for the lease between what will eventually be the Erie County Stadium Corporation and the Buffalo Bills. Those will all be and are in the process right now of being negotiated, and we have until September 1st to complete those negotiations. But first, the Memorandum of Understanding has to be approved by the legislature. So, what are the major terms of the agreement? I think we've all heard this. It's the construction of a new stadium on land adjoining the current stadium. The land is to be transferred from Erie County to the Erie County Stadium Corporation, and the Erie County Stadium Corporation will then lease to the Buffalo Bills the facility once the stadium is substantially completed. You will see in my presentation some notes. It says MOU Section 4, subsection C, so that's the reference in the MOU where the provision that I'm talking about is included. Just ask if people could just turn off their phones. I'm going to turn off mine in case it's right now. Yeah. So, the stadium is projected to be a multi-use facility for outdoor sports and other events. That's in MOU Section 1E. And the stadium's project budget is $1.4 billion. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But the project budget is what we're actually sort of getting out of this. It is one of the appendices to the MOU, is the project budget, and it breaks down where the money for the $1.4 billion will be spent. It's not, we wanted to ensure that we had a strong analysis to, number one, guarantee that the price was accurate, but also what we were getting is what we were hoping for. And that is included in the MOU in the appendices, and you can go through line by line, and it'll show what percentage of the stadium is going to be for concourse, what percentage is going to be for field, what percentage is going to be for food service, how the money is going to be broken apart. So the contributions towards construction of the $1.4 billion project budget, it's contained in MOU Section 4, subsection B. Erie County Stadium Corporation through New York State is putting in $600 million. That's 42.8% of the overall cost associated with the project budget. Erie County is putting in $250 million. That's 17.8%. And then the Buffalo Bills will put in everything else, which also include any amount generated from the sale of personal seat licenses. And you'll see it says at least 39.2%. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. But for tax purposes, the PSLs are going to be sold by the Erie County Stadium Corporation. PSLs in the modern NFL are not sold directly by the teams. They're sold usually by a governmental entity. It was agreed that this would be sold by Erie County Stadium Corporation, with the amount that's generated for the PSLs being allocated towards the team's percentage of the cost. So if you have $600 million, $250, the Buffalo Bills, if it's $1.4 billion, it's a $550 million investment from the Bills and the NFL. But the cost overruns are an important provision that we were able to negotiate associated with this project. The Bills will bear the monetary risk associated with cost overruns beyond the project budget encountered during the construction of the new stadium, and that includes overruns related to the project program statement change, but also any other increases in cost as a result of just general increases in inflation. It does not include cost overruns that are caused by the material actions of the county or the Erie County Stadium Corporation, and we would be responsible for our costs associated with that. So if we were responsible to do something and we refused to do it and increase the cost, we would then be responsible for the cost overruns associated with that. If it's a cost overrun associated with inflation, the team is responsible for it. So that's why I say in the previous slide, it says 42.8 million, 42.8%, 17.8%, and then it says at least 39.2%. We have cost certainty. Unless we do something we're supposed to do, or we don't do something we're supposed to do, I should say, our amount is always going to be the 250 million. Regardless of whether there's overruns associated with inflation or not. That's our amount. The bills are assuming the risk associated with the cost overruns of the project. The construction terms, the bills will hire an architect, engineers, and other design firms to run the project. That's MOU Section 4, Sub A. All construction work shall be done in compliance with applicable laws. The county and the state shall have the right to oversee all construction work. MOU Section 4, Sub F. Project labor agreement will be entered into by the Bills and the Buffalo Building Trades. That's MOU Section 4, Sub G. Just want to note, this does not mean that everyone working on this project will be a union contractor or employee. This means that prevailing wages associated in this community, as well as benefits, have to be provided to the workers. Non-union contractors can bid on this project. They're not excluded. They just have to pay a prevailing wage and benefit amount that's applicable for our region. One of the reasons we wanted the project to labor agreement is we did not want, and we would have probably seen, some national contractor that would have low bid the project and brought workers from outside of our region to do the work at a lower amount than what would normally be paid on a project such as what we'd have in our region. And by having a project labor agreement, we ensure that we are employing local workers, local tradesmen. They are getting paid the prevailing wage and benefit rate for our region. That money will then get respent in our community as compared to going into the wallets and bank accounts of individuals who are coming from outside our community and then taking it elsewhere. And it also ensures that there is labor stability and you do not have problems that often are incurred on these large projects if you don't have a project labor agreement. I will note, most people forget this, but for the 2013 agreement, a project labor agreement was in place. The project got done on time and on budget. There was no critique at that point of a project labor agreement. The workers almost all came from Western New York. It was a smaller project, 130 million, but that project got done on time, on budget, and the money went back into the wages associated with the local workers who then respent it in our community and our economy. So the critique that I see from some out there on the project labor agreement is basically by entities that want to low bid this and bring in workers from outside our area, and then we don't see the bang from the buck because the money is not invested back in our community by our local employees. All county and New York State MW and WBE rules apply. All work is subject to the Erie County's competitive bidding rules, including the apprenticeship law. So all the laws that we put in place in the last few years are applicable. The team is required to demolish the current stadium once a new one is built. That is part of their allocation associated with the program and project budget. Community benefits agreement, that's section 5 sub K. The bills will provide various community benefits to the county, Empire State Development through ECSC, in the public sector, as described in the MOU, and is to be more fully determined following further negotiations. Though it does note the terms will include making the stadium available for up to 5 civic events, granting a suite to the county for tourism and economic development purposes, donating tickets and parking passes for events, and such other benefits to be agreed upon. We are not done negotiating this. It's as simple as that. We are actually really going to start negotiating this very soon. So this is not done, just like the lease is not done. And the construction agreement, coordinating construction agreement is not done. The non-relocation agreement is not done. It will be, and a lot of those will be based off of the terms that we used in the previous negotiation, but we want to ensure that we're getting what we want, and it is described in the MOU, but there are additional terms that will be continued to be discussed as part of the community benefit negotiations that are going forward. The new lease terms, the lease is between the Erie County Stadium Corporation and the Buffalo Bills for 30 years. However, Erie County will be a party to the non-relocation agreement, which prohibits the team from moving. It is a strong provision. It's very similar to provisions that we have in the current non-relocation agreement, which says that the team must stay. If the team tries to move, they actually have to go to a court of law to allow them to move, which more likely would be a court in Erie County. If said judge gave the team the ability to move, then the team must pay back the contributions to the county and the state in full during the first 14 years, and then it declines in the final 16 years, and the stadium has to be demolished by the team. This is to guarantee that the team is here for 30 years. We don't want 15, 16 years from now the team to move. The Bugles are making a large investment in this project. The county is, and the state. I feel comfortable, based on the terms that we have in the MOU and what we have currently, that we will have a very strong non-relocation agreement that will ensure that the Buffalo Bills will be here for 30 years. Assuming they start their season in 2026, that means the last year of the lease would be 2055. I hope we're all around to watch the Bills in 2055. But there are people who are not even born today who will be attending games at this new stadium and will be Buffalo Bills fans 25, 30 years from now. New lease terms, future contributions. The Erie County Stadium Corporation and the Buffalo Bills have obligations to fund future capital expenses at the stadium. I'm not going to go into that in great detail because it doesn't relate to the county, but you can find that in the MOU at section Roman numeral 5, B, C, and D sections. The Erie County has no obligations to fund future operating or capital contributions, except Erie County shall fund a capital improvement account using revenue generated by surcharges on ticketing, parking, and concessions, the amount to be paid by the attendees to the events. Whatever amount is generated is the amount that's contributed. The county does not have to pay anything above and beyond that. So there would be an account that would be created. There would be a surcharge that would be placed on tickets, parking, concessions, and that will be discussed with the Buffalo Bills. There is a certain amount that they feel could be generated in the first year alone. That money will go back into the stadium for future capital expenses. So what a term that I wanted and I really wanted to ensure is that the people who use the stadium are the ones that are paying for its future costs, future expenses. So it's not coming out of our operating budget, and our operating budget amounts could be used for other purposes, like the library, like arts and culturals, like the parks, like health and human services, like the roads. So to talk about this, the result of the elimination of the future county operating and other obligations, currently Erie County provides an annual game day operating and capital subsidy in relation to the stadium and the team. For 2022, that amount is $6,869,900. And if we were to continue the current terms, because it is projected to grow on average about $150,000 a year, by 2050, that will be $11,960,659 that the county would have been obligated to pay under the current lease for operating, game day, and capital subsidy. Once the new stadium is built and opened, Erie County will pay nothing for future expenses, saving taxpayers millions in the long run. This was a key term that I fought for, and I'm very proud that we were able to get it. Approval of documents. All major documents and approvals have to be entered into by September 1st of this year. The county cannot bond for any contribution until such documents are completed. That is in MOU section, I think I'm missing something there, but it says 2C, but I think there's that's 2C, excuse me. The bills are prohibited from talking to or negotiating with any other city party through September 1st of this year. If we fail to get the agreements done, but we are working in good faith and everyone thinks we're going to get it done, that could be extended. I believe it's 45 days. If we are not in a good position and it appears that there's not going to be entering these agreements, then the bills could start talking with other cities and move. The documents that are referenced include the lease, the non-relocation agreement, the construction coordination agreement, and the community benefit agreement. So those all have to be done by September 1st. And at that point, we would be heavily starting construction and moving forward with the obligations from all parties to construct the new stadium across the street. Now, there's a lot of question as to where exactly the stadium is going to be. That is still to be determined. And I do know that there have been surveyors out there doing site surveying work as we try to determine the exact location where it will be. The site is large enough, including the parking lots, that there's always people thinking we're closing SUNY Erie South to basically demolish it and build a new stadium there. That is not the case. We do not need to do that. We may need to take some of the vacant land that is between the parking lots and the college buildings, and that's to be determined, but there will not be a demolition of the college campus and the placement of the stadium there. That is just not going to happen. And there's been some rumors about that, but it's not the case. So the major benefits to the county from the MOU's terms: it keeps the team in Western New York. You've heard me say this publicly. I believe if we had not entered into an agreement like we have the one before you, the team would have moved. There were other markets that were interested, and I do believe the team would have moved. It provides construction cost certainty to the county at a time when all costs are rising. It's a very important term. It eliminates all future operating and other obligations of the county, with future capital costs paid for by the attendees to the events, the Erie County Stadium Corporation, and the Buffalo Bills. I've said it, the county will be out of the football business. We will still have responsibilities with regards to law enforcement, game day protection with emergency services, but we will no longer be providing operating and funding subsidies to the team, and the county will no longer own the facility, which we believe will save us money in the long run too, because currently anytime somebody slips and falls there, Erie County gets sued as the owner of the facility. If we have to pay insurance, we pay an additional insurance amount of I think $250,000 approximately annually for what basically is a catastrophic insurance policy. We are self-insured in Erie County. We don't normally pay insurance, but we do in case there's an issue with regards to the stadium or an event that occurs at the stadium in which the county was to be sued at a tremendous amount. So that is all eliminated, as we will no longer be an owner of the facility, and we will no longer have that obligation associated with it. With that, if you have any questions of myself or Mr. Jones, we'd be glad to answer them, but I've been told I probably have to move up front for that.
Yeah, we're going to thank you, County Executive, for the presentation. Members, we're going to transition to our formal setting in the dais now, and then we can prepare to ask any clarifying questions that you have on the presentation. I'll just call the legislators as we usually do.
You want me?
You can join me up front, and the other guests can join me up front as well. Someone can sit here.
Allegedly, this works against. Allegedly.
Okay, so I'm sure the members have a couple of questions. Remember, this is the first of a few conversations that we will have about this. I thank the county executive and the administration, Mr. Jones and Mr. Recuria, for joining us here today to kickstart this well-needed and robust conversation that we're gonna, that pertains to a generational decision that this honorable body has to make. I'm going to allow our guest speakers to just personally introduce themselves again, because we were kind of spread out all over the room. And then I'll open the floor for questions. I have just 2 or 3, and then I'll certainly take raised hands from my colleagues. So why don't we start with you, Mr. Jones, and then we'll go down.
Good morning, everyone. Chairwoman and members of the legislature. My name is Frank Jones. I'm with the Houston office of Greenberg Traurig. I've been with the firm about 16 years and have a specialty practice in sports and entertainment facilities development.
Mark Poloncarz, Erie County Executive.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be before you and to answer any questions regarding the stadium. My name is Ron Rakuya. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Buffalo Bills and Pagula Sports and Entertainment.
Hi, I'm Bob Keating, the Budget Director. I'm here with Ben Swanekamp, the Deputy Budget Director.
Thanks for joining us. I have just 2 questions, and then I'll yield the floor to my colleagues before I ask any others. Great presentation. Thank you for the introduction. The stadium lease, the construction coordinating agreement, the non-relocation agreement, the extension of the current lease, and the community benefits agreement. What exactly is the timeline when the legislature can expect to have these specific agreements before us? And I guess a part B to that question would be, is there a specific order in which each of those agreements have to be negotiated in, or do they happen simultaneously?
I'll just start and turn over to Mr. Jones. They are all being negotiated simultaneously. The expectation is they be brought to the legislature in full when they are ready for the approval that's necessary for for Erie County with regards to each particular agreement. As noted, the MOU states that they are to be completed by September 1st.
So we won't see one agreement and then another and then another. They're all going to come over packaged?
That would be the
That's the
expectation.
ideal situation. Okay. The second question I want to ask before I invite my colleagues to ask questions regarding the current lease extension and the fiscal responsibilities on the county. Right now, I just asked the Deputy Budget Director, this year for 2021 is $5.7 million in total of stadium upkeep investment. Is that a correct number?
Oh, sorry, no, that's the overall debt service, plus then we have game day, working capital, and capital improvement allowance.
So what's the
for
total?
a total of $12.2 million.
12.2 million.
Right.
Is that
And that
dollar?
includes prior year debt.
Say it again?
And that includes prior year debt.
Okay, so what will be the county's responsibility fiscally to the current stadium upkeep? Is it going to trend the same? We still have that fiscal obligation until the new stadium comes to pass?
Under the proposed deal for 2022, our projection is $12.6 million in bills-related costs in 2022, $15.2 million in 2023, and then it will go down in 2024 to 10.6 and be at about that range for some years to come.
What was the after 2023?
2024 is $10.6 million.
10.6 million.
If I can add, that is the actual new obligation for 2022 is $6,869,900. What Mr. Swanekamp is also referring to is the debt service for the past debt that's been taken out on the stadium. Debt service continues, but the obligation, the new obligation for 2022 is $6,869,900, and that is based on the current agreement projected to grow annually for new obligation of about $150,000 per year. We always have debt service for debt that we've prior taken out, and that's included in our full debt repayments and projections with regards to that. That's directly attributable to the stadium.
Do we debt service? Do we know just the new the general responsibility? You said 6.2.
$6,869,900 for 20. That'll increase by about $150,000 a year through the life of the existing stadium. Once the new stadium is built, that becomes zero.
Got it. Thank you.